Only the rustling of wind in the leaves interrupts the silence left by creatures whose instincts force them to flee from this place. You stand with eyes wide at the sight before you, a crater where Grunhelm once rested, and the seeming footprints of the colossal behemoth that must have carried it away. Everyone make a wisdom saving throw to see who snaps out of their stupor first.
18.
17.
14.
18.
Arixavir, you are the first to kind of pull yourself out of shock at the conclusion that you've drawn from what you're seeing before you.
That's what you look like, Magnus? Okie dokie.
Even the mountain can do crazy magic.
So I assume, school talks about this all the time.
What?
You surely learned more about this and how this can happen and not a big surprise and okay. Nope, okie dokie.
No. Very slowly shake my head now and say nothing.
Maybe we go now?
Well,
To where?
we need proof that it's not there anymore. I try to judge, basing the fact that there is what we think are maybe footprints now are also behind us, that this thing is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever, the town, I guess we'll call it, is gone.
If I look in that direction, I don't see, a mountain in the distance walking around.
You see several mountains in the distance. You're in a very
Are you moving?
mountainous area. Make a perception check.
19.
19. You don't notice any moving mountains from here, but there are several, mountains of varying sizes, and there's no telling how large this thing would be. But you do gather that the footsteps seem to be heading in a sort of northeasterly direction.
Northeast, northeast?
Northeast.
That is not good, because that is going toward Loamhaven.
Do you say this out loud to us?
Yeah, I get out my map and I try to calculate where it's going.
Right.
Does it look like it's
Compass.
going straight for Loamhaven based on the directions that I see, or?
This will just be a base intelligence check. Are you proficient with map maker's tools or cartography kits?
I mean, no. I don't know. I don't think that's even an option.
Okay. Then go ahead and just make a straight intelligence check.
Okay.
This is as you sort of try and denote where each footstep is and kind of tracking those with a little, is it called a compass?
Yeah.
Could I apply
Just the big
survival?
circle that you can
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not proficient in survival, but I'll do intelligence. That's better. Not great. 8.
Can I give him the help action by steadying his shaking hand?
That'd be great.
Yeah, sure.
That's better. 18.
Arixavir kind of places a hand on the shoulder and calms you down for a second, reminds you to breathe.
Thank you. This is so fucked up.
And using the landmarks that you can see on the map and also around you, you get the sense that the gate of this being, if these are footprints as they appear to be, looks to be several hundred meters.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't necessarily something that would be in the clouds. If that were the case, you'd probably see it on the horizon over other mountaintops. But it is incredibly large, and based on the gate, it doesn't necessarily seem to be heading in a straight line for Loamhaven, but it is headed in that direction and towards the coastline of this space, sort of headed into that central lock of Lochvada.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think it's going right for Loamhaven, but it is going in that direction, which is still bad news.
It's not headed in the direction of Talos, is it?
No, Talos is, you guys kind of made a straight shot south once you curved around the bend. You left from the port there, headed north, and then looped around to the south, and then went straight south. So he would be further east from the direction where this creature is headed.
I don't know if there's any immediate danger to Lokvara. So...
Right, but in theory, there's immediate danger to someone on its way.
Well,
Or the entire city. Like, we don't know what happened to the inhabitants, if they're still alive or...
yeah, we should go get a closer look at the hole.
I don't think just a quick guess. I don't think they're good.
Oh, that could be our name, the Hole Peekers.
Make a note.
You're just pretending to make a note.
Actually added
Looking
to
down.
the list.
The whole
not-
peakers, but P-E-A-King.
Oh.
P-E-A-K.
Okay.
P-I-Q-E-E-Rs.
That's somehow worse. You've piqued my hole.
We should go.
You had my interest, and now you have my hole.
Now you've piqued my hole.
Right.
Can't we just take the half body and say that that is enough evidence?
I mean, it would be evidence that we cut this guy in half and brought him back. But
What if we just draw the landscape?
I mean, we could. But aren't
Sure.
you the least bit curious? It's obviously like whatever left isn't here anymore.
I mean, maybe if there is anybody left, we can help
Yeah.
somehow.
I think we should go
have
check
to investigate, but what if any of these other mountains do the same thing? We could be immediately killed.
Well, if all the mountains start walking around, we're probably totally screwed. So I don't. If we see one more mountain move, then we'll bolt. How about that? We'll go perpendicular to whatever way it's walking, and we just won't stop.
I mean, we can follow the trail, the other one as well.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like it was heading for the coast, so it might start walking across the sea in the direction it's going. So we should figure out where it's going, and then we can get on the ship and like follow that course.
Arx, are there any fables that speak of anything like this?
Do I know of anything that sounds similar?
Make a lore check.
That is a 14.
I mean, you have vague recollections of some stories that Granny Brynja would tell of giants the size of mountains who used to, prowl Nox. And Thrunamore was actually said to have been the offspring of giants, a human man who fell in love with a giantess and bore their son, which became Thrunamore.
I get it, Big Mommy.
Yeah, Big Mommy. And, there's other fables that talk about how the different realms, these giants were referred to as otherkin, not from Nox, but from the realms beyond. That's pretty much all the information that you have. You don't have, specific names or any specific tale that comes to mind about a walking mountain.
So would I know that the size of these giants, is there any kind of reference if they could be, as big as a mountain, or?
Unfortunately, it varies from story to story, because some stories do refer to them as being the size, as tall as mountains, but you don't know how much of that is, artistic license. And these aren't stories that are written anywhere. These were passed down verbally through generations. So I think just by nature of being human beings, or being, humanoid beings, you're all aware of the sort of fallibility of the telephone problem. Telling somebody something and
Erixavir is a fundamentalist fabulist.
Rumors becoming even bigger rumors because of who's telling them and who embellishes, and the person who tells the story, everyone adds their own little flavor, and Granny Brynja is certainly one for flavor. Although she would constantly criticize, the fables that were told within Gloamshore, and their bards and skalds of they embellish too much, or they've been given a really watered down version of this story.
I love that she knows the truth.
Because I mean, your family's always lived on the outskirts and has basically passed down the stories within their familial line, versus in Gloamshore and a lot of the rest of Ilvermere, where it's skalds telling city squares these stories, and then those people go home and they tell their friends what they remember and what their favorite parts were, and then those stories get spread and things get diluted very quickly.
I do think it's possible that there is something very large, but I did not ever expect it to be as big as a mountain. But it's not impossible.
When did they say that this town stopped reporting?
There was a seismic event.
It was a fortnight.
A fortnight? Okay.
So
A fortnight.
So why suddenly does the mountain get up?
It's a good question.
Maybe just taking a long nap.
Perhaps it was the seismic event?
Right, I presume now that whatever seismic event is probably footsteps. But why didn't it wake up with everything else?
You mean during the Ember Flare?
Right. Everything else, that's when it all went funky, right? But now this mountain, 15 years later.
But we don't
Now
know what
we wake
caused
up?
the Ember Flare in the first place. This could be just another... There
Yeah.
could be more events like this on the way. It could be... Maybe this is the last one. There's no telling.
And there's still so much we don't know about the Ember Flare.
Everybody make a quick history check.
5.
12.
Nice.
10.
18.
Oh.
18.
Someone remembers.
Yeah, Brody.
Smarter than I look.
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, especially as somebody who's more, you all grew up for the most part in Ilvermere, where it was, the long winters were home to long nights. You've always been probably more comfortable under the Sparkwinds than under the sun. Also, keeping up with your brother Magnus, who rarely sleeps but is usually indoors, you would spend that time outside.
Yeah. And parents fish at night. And yeah.
Exactly. And you think back, and about 2 weeks ago, there was a very bright night where the Sparkwinds were almost the majority of the sky. It wasn't the intensity of the Ember Flare, nor would I think it was comparable enough to even spark memories of there wasn't fear of it's happening again. But around that time, the Sparkwinds were brighter than they usually are.
Have I noticed a change since before the big Ember Flare? Have they been sparking up more?
Since then, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay.
Because they kind of winked out. They stopped that night, and there was that odd darkness that fell over everything, and then it roared to life, and it was almost like daylight. But ever since then, they've definitely been more vibrant.
I'll relay all this.
Let's go check out the hole.
Go peek at that hole.
Yeah.
Probably a good half hour of hiking down from this vantage point towards the valley where this crater, the now valley where this crater is placed. And there's a little bit of an uphill hike on the way to the edge of the crater. And you see a lot of what looked from the distance to be rock formations. You can now see are crumbled buildings that are sort of littering the landscape in this area. Not nearly enough to, because you know that Grunhelm is a city of size comparable to Loamhaven. So it's not nearly enough debris to be the entire city's wreckage, but you get the sense that these were on the outskirts. And getting closer, you see that a number of these ruins are just painted with blood and viscera that now has been just kind of sitting and festering in the sun for several days. And probably a lot of that evidence would be gone if not for the fact that most creatures, scavengers, birds, and things fled the area around the same time. Stepping up over the edge of the crater itself, you look down and it's probably a good 2.5 to 300 yards in diameter. A very, very large crater.
How large is a city? How many yards?
Much bigger than that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like 3 football fields.
As we come up on it, there's around the perimeter. There's some ruins, fresh ruins.
Yes.
In the hole.
There's a little bit of debris in the hole for sure, but mostly it is just jagged rock cliff face that looks like, you can see actually layers and layers of sediment that Magnus, you would know this is like centuries of buildup and geological activity. For actually make another intelligence check if you're curious about this sort of like how long was this thing here that got up and left.
I'm so curious. I'm rolling like shit today. 9.
9. Your specialization in the arcane doesn't help you much when it comes to geology, but you do just kind of count, and you can see that the rock changes color in striations probably a good 50, 60 times.
I mean,
And there's different thicknesses, which can tell you that different things were happening during those eras, but you don't know what exactly they mean. You don't know if a thicker layer means longer time or if it just means different weather conditions.
if it was under the city, it was down underneath the ground for a long time.
Is there like leg prints or a butt print or anything like that?
Nothing discernible, no. Make a perception check, actually.
Oh, I should be rolling with disadvantage.
Oh, you're exhausted.
That's what I wasn't going to comment on earlier.
Yeah, remembering after you started telling me things, it's like, damn it.
I was like, it doesn't involve me. I'm not going to rat out somebody else.
10.
No, like you get the sense that if what you all presume is the case, and there was a creature that was slumbering here and it got up and walked away, it probably must have been like curled up, or like you expected the crater itself to be much deeper, but it seems wide rather than deep.
So we think that whatever it was under the city? Then what if it still has the city?
From what we know about the city, is the city built on like a mountain or a hill or something, or is it built on flat ground?
Yeah, it was built up on atop the sort of flat portion of a mountain.
Okay, so if it's wider than it was deep, and there was a mountain there, and it probably wasn't just under it probably was like that whole mountain, or at least inside of the mountain or something. Honestly, we won't have any real answers until we see it walking around, probably.
So do we find it? Right?
I guess. I'm going to start looking around for some sort of evidence in the rubble that would be portable that we could take with us. That would be
I'll help.
like a building of some import that we couldn't have just absconded with without consequence.
Okay, you can either both make an investigation check, or one of you can make it with advantage.
Please.
Okay.
I'm gonna cast guidance. Whoever wants to do this.
Thank you. 23.
I'm going to ask you, actually, on a 23, what... you don't find anything specifically pertaining to the Seekers Guild specifically, but what do you find in the rubble that A, is carryable, and B, denotes the destruction of a city that you wouldn't just be able to pocket if the city were still standing?
I'd like to find like an official plaque, like something that would be on like the outside of a building, of some sort of like official local government structure, like a tax office or a like Lord's, exchequer or something, and like maybe it's something that we couldn't just like rip off and run off with.
You find a half of a plaque that's about 1 foot wide and 1.5 feet tall, that you can make out Tithing Co., which you know to be like the tax collector, tithing man.
Tithing Co., you said?
But the plaque itself, the top of it is crumpled, I should say. It is intact, but has been crushed in such a way that no living person could have taken this like plate of lead and made it look like tinfoil on top like that. The specific like last name that was probably above Tithing Co. is part of that crumpled
Right.
picture.
I think this will work.
Yep. Piece of paper and charcoal. And I'm just going to do a quick sketch of what's going on.
Yeah, make a performance check.
Ooh, an artiste.
I don't know about that.
It's like
7.
stick figures of us standing next to it.
It's
That's how
very
many hours it takes you to draw it.
it's very gestural. Like you do get the the general impression. You get the feeling of the space.
Tired.
Yeah, without so much like strong representations. You know, the perspective is off, but it gets the point across.
I try to like get as crisp of a mental image as I can of all of this, because I can cast silent image later and create like a magical visual of it.
Yeah, I think this would also be an intelligence check. Also, go ahead and draw 10 little circles somewhere in your notes that you can come back to.
Just like in any pattern.
Straight across would make the most sense.
Like you fill in memories.
Okay.
Excellent. So yeah, this will be a difficulty of, we'll say, 11 to begin with. Go ahead and make an intelligence check.
Guidance.
I can't roll above a 5. It's awful.
I can do guidance again,
Yeah,
right?
guidance. Yeah.
Yeah.
D4 could get you over 10, or up to 11.
Oh,
9 total.
9.
wowzers.
Okay.
You're not exhausted. You know that, right?
No, I'm just scared. I'm just in shock.
Yeah, this is Magnus's like first time in the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do your best to get a mental image. I'm gonna say in this moment you're like trying to get a mental image of the space, and you keep like looking over Brody's shoulder and seeing his drawing and noticing like I think you don't notice this happening, but like your memory of the space is being tainted by his bad drawing.
Okay.
Do we want to call out for survivors just to check?
Yeah.
Or is that too dangerous and we might attract some other attention?
No,
I mean,
there could be someone under the rubble we don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think that thing is gonna hear
Should
us and
we-
come back.
Unless there's other things. I mean, if there's more of those kind of vine creatures or something, we have no idea.
I mean, I feel like, well, all the natural predators seem to have left the area because of this. But, I mean, you're right, there might be things that, like, crawl out from the holes or something, but do we want to just leave survivors based on that possibility, or do we want to at least
Well, a
try?
survivor could tell us what happened here and help us relay that information to your Seekers Guild.
That's an excellent point.
I'm gonna cast Thaumaturgy and call out with. You see me taking a huge breath, and then just shout extremely loud. You guys have to like cover your ears, and I'm going to shout, "Are there any survivors out there?"
You call out, and your voice echoes off of this large crater, booms through the space. You actually hear like a couple of pebbles come loose and fall down on the other side. No voices call out in return that you can hear. But you also get the sense that if it's been 2 weeks, anyone trapped without access to food or water,
It's been a while.
Do we see any, like, complete bodies or anything, or is it just, like, gore?
Wait,
it's just gore, rubble, stone.
it's been 2 weeks since they've lost contact.
It's been.
I'm gonna punch you all.
I knew where you said.
We're friends. I'm gonna punch you in the mouth.
It's fine.
Every day, this man.
I've conditioned this response, unfortunately. It's random.
For 2 weeks, there's been no response from the town. And they've sent groups within that 2 weeks. So,
Why did it get stepped on at the campsite?
right, what happened? Are there any other craters like this one?
Make a perception check.
Like, not the ones that look like footsteps.
Right, but ones that look like awakened beings. 10. Not in the vicinity, no.
Maybe we need to get up somewhere high and try to find something. Wait, what about the one where we found the campsite? That one was deeper and bigger, wasn't it?
That was one of the footprints.
Okay. I think maybe we need to get somewhere high and see if there's anything just like this. What if there's more than one being?
3 other groups have gone missing in that time. That's a bit extreme, I would think. Unless the other two just got lost along the way.
Maybe it didn't start moving all at once. Maybe the process of it just getting up and waking up was what destroyed the town, and then it walked away, destroying that group that they sent to investigate. This process, I mean, geologic time moves slowly, and this thing might too, but it's gone now. Who knows how long it'll take it to get wherever it's going. But I think we have as much information as we can get right now. I think a deeper investigation than this should come later. We're obviously not going to find any survivors. We've got some evidence of what happened that we can take back, and I think that was our entire mandate.
All right.
So at this point, I would vote that we get back on the ship and head for Lone Haven to alert them that there's the possibility of a mountain heading their way.
So it looks like that part of the city is just gone. Not that it like fell off somewhere else or anything, right?
Correct.
Didn't like shake it off.
You can see like a single wall of a structure that's still standing, that the walls coming off of it are crumbled, and you can see like a painting still hanging on that wall that's right on the edge of the crater that seems like a building that was on the precipice, that as this thing, lifted out of this space, that was just like, unfortunately, on the border.
All right.
What's the fastest way to get a message back to Lone Haven? Is it just us getting there?
I think so. I don't have any magical means of sending a message, unfortunately.
There's no towns in between that could possibly do that for us.
I'll look at my map. This map, I don't have anything that is between here and Lone Haven, but are there any towns that I would know of, like, between, or is it pretty sparse?
It's pretty sparse. I'd say even based off of that map, you're aware that like most of that southwestern section of Lokvara is uninhabited by humans. That was a section that was sort of overrun during the Ember Flare. Cities fell at that time as well, and only a few strongholds remained and are still kind of clearing the spaces around themselves. Lone Haven has been one of the most successful because it's one of the smallest portions of Lokvara.
Right.
But yeah.
All right. Back to the ship then.
I think so.
As quickly and possibly as quietly as we can.
That would be smart.
You all head north, trudging through the wilderness once again, and by the time you reach the shore, the spark winds are bright in the skies, the sun has set, and the first moon is just beginning to peek over the horizon. You go to where you left your little dinghy and climb aboard, and can I have everybody make perception checks as you begin rowing out into the bay?
9.
9.
I keep rolling really high with one die and really low with the other.
Oh no.
22.
22, nice.
18.
Perception, you said?
Yes.
Perceive it.
I wish my passive perception was used, but 22?
22.
There
Excellent.
you go, buddy. Yeah. You're doing it.
Brody, you are so exhausted. I think you guys get back to the lifeboat and you, like, everybody is chill with you just kind of like laying down and they'll handle the rowing. Probably Saoirse is rowing kind of back facing everyone. And as you kind of look along the coastline, there's a moment where you feel the waves sort of get choppy and the boat jostles a bit as Nox herself trembles.
Uh-oh.
Looking down along the coastline, you see a sight that fills you at once with wonder, astonishment, and horror. That mountain in the distance is no mountain, at least not anymore. Massive arms of stone swing lazily through the air, dropping boulders that seem like pebbles from this distance. A thick, rigid torso tugs along two great legs like cliff faces ambulating the countryside and crushing all that dwells below. The impossibly large figure moves incredibly slowly for its size, but each step spans hundreds of meters. Atop the jagged shoulders, like a king's crown, jut the stone spires and structures of what you presume to be Grunholm, a city taken hostage atop the Titan's back. You feel that shake and tremble even atop the water, probably 2 or 3 miles down the coastline from you, only visible from the light of the spark winds above. It takes another step that crashes down into the waves below. There's a moment where you like stop rowing and look at each other and are just caught in awe at this massive being in the distance before there's a deep bellow that seems to emit from that distance. And you see birds take off from forest lines in the area, and it stands there, motionless. Perhaps in disbelief, perhaps deanimated, but it's just there in the waves in the distance.
So it's moving like along the coast, or like it was moving like across the water to.
It looks like it's stepped into the waves, maybe like 2 steps, several hundred meters offshore at this point. At this point, the water is up around what would be like the creature's probably like mid shins, and it's vaguely humanoid anatomy.
Maybe it's like when you walk into the cold water and it touches your bits and you have to like acclimate for a second.
I don't think it's reached any bits yet.
Does it have bits?
I'm not gonna look.
These are the important questions.
If it's going into the ocean, that's fine.
Is it?
Not if it keeps going through the ocean and comes back out on land.
Well,
Could cause
But
a
it's
sea swell up ahead of it.
it stopped
moves
though.
through.
What stopped it? What's
can we follow it?
So,
Island?
does it
Does it
still have
leave?
part of the city on it?
Yes.
that's
So
also a problem.
the shoulders up to where the head would be,
Mhm.
you see spires, towers, and buildings.
Is there any kind of a face, like a head or anything? Any
No.
kind of
Do we hear like?
Make perception checks.
so 21.
8.
11.
16.
Audic, you swear that you can hear in the distance a voice crying out. A very small voice, but you'd have to get closer to tell what is being said, if anything.
And it's coming from the mountain itself, or
It's coming from that direction. It doesn't sound anything like the bellow that you just heard. That, like, shook the trees and scared away animals in the area again. It was make insight checks, actually.
Also, what's it
Get up there.
bellowing from? It doesn't have a face.
So the bellowing, it sounds as if it's like rocks grinding against one another.
13.
Oh. 4.
14.
17.
Audic, hearing that bellow strikes a memory in you from 15 years ago when you arrived in Lokvada and everyone was sort of piling off of the 2 Tuatavine ships and reconvening with each other, and there was a mother who was looking for her child. And you remember in the moment of realization that her son hadn't made it onto either ship. The scream that she let out sounded pretty similar.
I think it's in pain. This fountain. I think it might be looking for something.
Ah.
You hear the rushing of water, and it's hard to notice, like, as you've continued rowing to go out and meet Talos on the boat, it's not until you kind of, like, look away from the giant being on the horizon and back towards the shoreline that you just came from that you see the water has actually reached the trees now. Where once there was sort of stone beach has been overtaken, the water level has raised, and you all kind of glance back at the creature and you can see it has stopped. It's not taking another step, but it seems to be slowly lowering, almost as if like falling to its knees in slow motion within the water.
We can get up there.
Do I think we can get up there? How tall? How tall is it?
How
The
far
way
is
it's
the
lowering,
city?
does it look like it'll come in contact with the water line?
It's hard to tell. It's moving faster, and I think as as you keep watching it, you get this worry of like, oh, that's going to send waves out in all directions. Imagine a person standing like knee deep in waves and then falling to their knees. That, but on a much larger scale, and you're just seeing the fall. You haven't seen the knees hit yet. That could be a seismic event. That will certainly send waves out in all directions.
We need to get to the ship.
Are
We're
we-
gonna capsize.
Are we closer to the ship or the shore?
The ship at this point.
Okay.
Let's haul ass.
Make an athletics check, Saoirse.
Guidance.
I can help. I can grab one of the oars if that would give you advantage.
Athletics. Shall I take advantage?
Yes.
15.
Yeah, you together with Magnus, both of you rowing furiously.
Hustling.
You eventually pull back up. Talos is there, waiting. He kind of like waves overboard. He's like, "Are you guys seeing this shit?" He like throws a rope overboard for you to connect to the hooks on either side of the dinghy so that he can then hoist you back up. You get those quickly connected, and he tosses down another rope, probably to Arcanarama, and you start pulling as well to help level things out and get there quickly. Saoirse, in this moment, as you're being hoisted up onto the ship, go ahead and make a quick intelligence check to try and get a sense of how tall this creature is.
14.
14's not bad.
14 feet tall. Cool.
You get the sense that it's probably between 200, so freestanding before it was down on its knees, anywhere between 200 to 250 feet tall. For a frame of reference for you, this is like the equivalent of looking out and seeing Haystack Rock in Oregon.
Jesus.
It's big, yeah.
Ah.
That's from the Goonies.
I mean, even if we could get up there, how do we get close enough without drowning?
Yeah.
What do we do if we do get there? How can we save anybody?
I don't know, maybe we can talk to it.
With what?
You talk to other stuff all the time. Why not this?
Maybe if we go back to Loamhaven, we can find like a person who's part rock, and maybe they can talk to it, because it's mostly rock.
I mean, if anybody is still alive on its shoulders, if it keeps going into the ocean, they're gonna die.
You hear the clanking of chains as Talos has like shoved a peg into this sort of circular section in the center of the deck on the ship and has begun pushing. You can hear chains coiling below as he's pulling the anchor up. And looking off in the distance, you can see there is now not like a tidal wave, but there's a large wave and choppiness approaching your direction. And he's trying to get the anchor up in time so that it isn't basically ripped free of the ship.
I help him.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. With all of you working together, you grab the other pegs and put it in. You get the anchor raised. Talos begins calling out commands, basically just like goes into captain mode and is giving each of you a job to do. He has one of you begin furling the sails, and then he puts probably Saoirse and Auric on oars and instructs you to basically turn the ship to face the oncoming waves so that you don't get sideswiped and capsize. Yes, thank you.
Is there any light source on this ship?
There are lanterns, yeah. No.
What do you
We
need?
had a crow's nest, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if we could
Well, I'm not going out there.
alert it to our presence?
We could shoot some
Does it have-
fire bolts
Does it have eyes?
into the sky.
I mean, it's clearly looking for something. Somehow, maybe.
We have no way of
Doesn't have a
communicating
face.
that we can help or even know if we can understand it.
I mean, we don't. But we don't know that we can't.
We do know that it's capable of killing us in a fell step.
You're like yelling this out to each other. Everybody make a dexterity saving throw as the wave hits. You don't have disadvantage on saving throws. Just ability checks.
Yay!
Hey, nat 20!
Nice.
That's an 11.
10.
17.
17. You all make it even just barely. The DC was 10. You all keep your footing. Nobody falls overboard as the wave hits. The ship curves upwards and the deck shifts beneath you. You all hold on to either the oars or the side of the boat where you are. Talos is just like gripping the helm for all that he's worth as you feel yourselves go upward and the deck becomes an incline and then very quickly comes back down on the other side of the wave and actually sets you on a trajectory towards the creature, which is not it's not like you're going to run into it. You're not right there. It's still miles away. But if you want to approach, you are on path to do so. Otherwise, you should take evasive maneuvers.
Does it look like the city part is going to be around the...
At this point, no. So you see the knees have hit beneath the waves, and the creature sort of leans back onto its what you would akin to heels, and the posture kind of slumps there as the arms dangle just in the waves below, and takes on that sort of universal posture for I've given up.
I mean, it doesn't look furious. It looks kind of pathetic. Maybe if it can talk, it'd be willing, and at the very least, if it's not going to hurt us, maybe we can try to get some people down.
You think it has a head under...
I mean, it's got something. How's it walking around? I can't explain what it's doing, just that it is. Maybe it's communicable.
We can try. I can try to talk to it in ancient Oxian, maybe.
If it's gonna know anything, it'd know that.
That or some rock language that I don't know.
Talos, what do you think?
I'm just the captain of the ship. I agree with Saoirse. It looks sad, but
It kind of reminds me of Dad.
just because something is sad does not mean it is not dangerous.
Can make it more dangerous. And it obviously doesn't necessarily see people as
I mean,
things it's concerned about, since it has destroyed a town and squished people that it's walking near.
Well, I
Like
mean,
ants to it.
we don't
Anything.
know that it even knew they were there. And in fairness, I've never had a city built on me, but if I woke up and one was there, I don't know that I'd
You might feel like
treat it like a friend.
you might think that you had ants on you. Something to be brushed off as an annoyance. Then again, we can't know its mind.
Does it look like it's a giant with just a city stuck on top? Or does it look like a living city? Does that make sense?
I'd say from this perspective, now having eyes on the being,
Yeah.
it seems like sometime long ago, this creature fell dormant. And then a city was built on what was presumed to be a mountain. And then now the creature has woken up, and the city is just part of it now.
Yeah, okay.
Does it
That's what I thought.
does it have like the same kind of visual vibes almost as those stone giants from the Hobbit movies? Like just the big, like they're just made of rock things moving around like.
I'm not familiar, but I would akin it to like featurely, similar to kind of like Garignac from Galaxy Quest.
Okay, yeah, that's like the exact same vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, featureless, just humanoid shape.
Yeah.
To the point that like it seems like if it does have a head, because you've got a side profile on it at this point. It's like it's facing in the direction of Loamhaven from the shore,
That's not great.
and you guys are further west of it. But you get the sense that if there is like a head, it's probably embedded within, like the shoulders would come up over top of it, like it's almost like hunched. But all you can see are the buildings on top and like the city that has been structured there.
I think that it's our responsibility to warn Loamhaven more than it is our responsibility to get people off of that. Because I don't even know if we can, but we can warn Loamhaven that this thing is coming that way. We can always come back to it afterward.
I mean,
Is it...
what are we gonna do if they
Ways
warn
away.
Loamhaven? They can't move.
We can evacuate the city if
They'll see it coming.
Like
That
those
way.
people saw it coming. Like the campers saw it coming.
well, they might have just been asleep.
Yeah.
Then again, we don't know what it wants, and it doesn't seem to be going towards Loamhaven, or whatever it is, it seems like it lost it.
I say, if there's anyone left alive, let's get them out on the boat.
Are we interested in talking to this creature, or trying to?
Do we want to try to signal it somehow? We can throw up bursts of magic in the air to see if it'll take notice.
Let's.
We can try talking to it, but
I'm wondering if we approach so that it doesn't need to move anymore to see us.
Can it see at all?
We don't know any of that.
I know.
I think you're getting real hung up on some things that are less important.
but that
I
is
think
the
it,
thing is
it woke up with the city on its
Hey.
head, started walking around,
You know
realized it walked to the water, and it's just like,
When I woke up yesterday, mountains weren't moving around either, all right? So I'm not going to make any more assumptions about what they can or can't do.
Fair.
I don't
Thank
think it's
you.
an assumption that it can kill us though.
Oh,
So
on a whim.
what is our
So,
escape plan if we do go talk to this thing and it becomes violent?
We paddle away as quickly as possible.
That's all we
so
can do.
all of you on oars, we will approach. I will call for us to cease once we are outside of what I believe to be the creature's range of striking.
I will try to call to it.
Mm-hmm.
I also know ancient Unnoxian. Perhaps it's what it speaks, if it speaks at all.
We could maybe make a beacon of some kind on the crow's nest.
I can throw up firebolts or something to try to get its attention. Not at
Maybe
it, but
some-
just like in the air.
Maybe
let's just get
let's do
closer.
something soft. Just to put a lantern on the crow's nest, all right? We don't want to alarm anyone.
I can make a silent image,
Oh, perfect.
a magical image.
Do that.
I don't know if it'll be big enough for it to notice, but we can try.
don't think it can see.
You don't know.
We don't know.
All right, the four of you start rowing. I will steer. When we get closer, we will light all of our lanterns. I will take them up to the crow's nest. No, let's do that first. And he begins gathering up all of the lanterns. There's like a cluster of like 6 or 7 that he lights all of them and sort of fastens their handles together, the like hook that you would hold it by, and ties a little bit of a rope around that. Climbs up to the crow's nest and places it atop so that there's like a beacon denoting a vessel approaching. Climbs back down and he gets on the helm as all of you begin to row towards the creature.
I'll get up into the crow's nest, I guess.
You approach slowly. The being, again, is like stone still and just looks defeated. And the closer that you get, you see there's no defined even head or facial features, but there is a sort of clustering of rock. It's like 3 distinct shapes that you get the sense is like that's where the sound was resonating from. You approach, staying probably a couple hundred meters back in case, you know, you were to say something that angers it and were to swing an arm at you, you would be out of range from that. It would have to get up and get closer in order to attempt to attack.
I'm gonna climb up with Magnus in case we need to bail.
Appreciate it.
You pull up. The anchor is not weighed, but the ship is kept free floating as Saoirse and Magnus climb up into the crow's nest on either side of the lanterns that have been positioned up there. And you look up at this massive being who is at this point now about waist deep in the water at rest, probably 150 feet high.
Does it have discernible hands on the end of its limbs, by the way? Like fingers and whatnot, or is it just like a big stone lump?
There are clumps of stone that look like they could be used to get purchase on things. Not in the sense that they are like fingers, but just kind of clusters of rock that shift.
Okay.
But at this juncture, the creature is completely still. Also getting closer, you hear a distant voice yelling out from above.
No.
Help me! Help! I see you down there! Maybe about 50 feet over the water, dangling from a rope, you see what appears to be a billy goat, Zoenveer.
Okay.
Due to the giant's frozen pose, he doesn't seem like he can reach the being's body to find purchase and is just dangling helplessly in the sky, blowing in the wind.
Does he have any more rope, or is he at the end of his rope?
He's at the end of his rope, literally.
Would he fall directly into the water from where he's at, or would he hit rock being underneath him?
It's hard to say. He would hit water, but it's hard to tell if it would be just water or how deep the water is here, because we're just, a little ways offshore.
Also, hitting it from 150 feet in the air.
He's 50 feet up in the air. It's like dangling.
fine.
It's like dangling from the being's hip.
How high up
50
is
feet
the
is
crow's
a long
nest?
way.
That'll hurt. It'll hurt a lot,
Yeah.
and may not be able to swim
How
after.
good are your bones?
Okay.
How good are you?
Should maybe we can try to get the creature to lean a little bit lower if we can actually talk to it, or do we want to do the stealth?
How high is the crow's nest?
About 24 feet.
What's the wind speed?
So that helps it.
Yeah, but
Then we would have to catch him directly into the
Yeah,
crow's
no.
nest. This is insane.
it,
I think we
it'd
have
be
to
safer
talk-
to fall in the water.
Unless, well, I don't know. I'm assuming that this guy has tried to tell the beast to stop or tried to communicate with it and has not had any luck with that.
We tell him to hang on, right? Should we just, for now, say hang on?
Yeah.
What should we do?
Help! Help me! Please!
What have you already tried?
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
I've tried nothing, and I'm out of ideas!
Okay. We tried talking to the giant.
We try. Let's try.
Okay.
Real fast.
Please! It's like screaming continues in the distance.
Hang on!
Shh! Talos behind. Stop! Stop yelling! We're doing something!
We're trying.
I get out my wand. I make the gestures necessary to cast the silent image spell, and then using the wand, I trace the letters in Ancient Noxian for like a greeting, just like hello, but then also underneath it, be gentle with us.
Yeah.
And then I make a hand motion to the letters form in the air as I'm tracing them. And then I make a motion to expand it into a 15-foot cube, and I push it as high up in the air as I can above us, near the thing.
Excellent.
And I will speak those aloud using thaumaturgy and see if it gets its attention.
Make one of you a persuasion check with advantage.
This might be better for you, I don't know.
Yeah,
I only have
not
plus-
bad.
I mean, based on how rolls have been going today,
Can I cast guidance on myself too?
You
Yeah.
can.
Okay, cool. Let's do
guide
that.
yourself.
And I can use it before or after making the ability check. Okay,
Advantage too.
with advantage. You're right. Those are both 8s on the die. That's a 4 on that one though, so that's
Nice.
12. 4 is 16.
The being stirs, and you hear the rumbling of stone as it just kind of shifts its focus over and down onto you. The goat on the rope just luckily they don't they're so far out and dangling. Seems like they were trying to get down but just couldn't bring themselves to drop, because 50 feet is a really long way to fall.
Crazy.
So they are just clinging to that rope and just swing around and don't hit the cliff face and fall or anything, but are just dangling there still. A gust of wind blows and carries it. You seem to have its attention.
Next one, do
So
help.
Next I'll change the lettering to say, can we help you?
You do so. There's a brief pause that elongates into a slightly longer pause before you once again hear that bellowing voice that could hardly be described as a voice, as it mostly just sounds like stones grinding as it calls out.
I
Which you know
recognize
to mean-
Vordholm as the location of that place that we were excavating.
Yes, you recognize this to mean Vordholm. My home is gone. All has been destroyed. All is lost.
I'll communicate that down just in common to everyone else, that's what it's saying.
What is Vordholm?
Vordholm is the ruins that they're excavating north of Lokvara. It's an ancient place.
Oh,
Old.
Do we have any idea how old those tablets were that you were deciphering from that location?
I mean, thousands of years old, but we don't have an exact time frame.
Have we invented carbon dating?
no.
Okay, I'll call down. I'll say, Vordholm was destroyed very long ago, but there is a new home of people resting atop of you that you are endangering with your sorrow.
Another long pause before it responds. Mostly I'm reading these out for audio purposes.
Yeah. Hit us. Hit us with the nerd language you made.
Thanks. Kingdoms have risen and fallen. How long have I slumbered?
Did you hear Brynja?
Brynjar.
Brynja's dad.
Ah, Grandpapa.
Brynjar is ancient Noxian for kingdom.
Thousands of years, we don't even know for sure how long. It is in our ancient past. It seems you've woken up along with the magic of the world, which was also silent for a very long time. Please gently let the people atop you leave safely to prevent further sorrow. And I don't know if it's seeing this or if it's hearing you, so you should.
Probably
should
both.
probably,
yeah.
Whatever you're writing, I'm going to be
Yeah, I
reading
assume
aloud.
you've been working in tandem. I was awoken by the wizard's passing and the trickster's return. The fight has ended, but something has changed.
The war has ended?
The fight has ended. I'm going to say, even without a roll, Auric, this activates your special interest.
You've activated my trap card.
Your mind instantly goes to the story from the fables of Feingrimr, the end times. Specifically, Granny Brynja's version of the story, the tale of Feingrimr. Most of them, tell that, Kasovir tricked all of his friends and betrayed them so that he could become the only god, and that in doing so will bring about or brought about the destruction. Mostly people who tell the new version of this fable talk about it as if it is yet to come, yet to pass. Granny Brynja's version speaks of it as something that has occurred. A story cannot be told unless it has happened. Would you like me to paraphrase, or would you like me to read you the fable?
Ooh, I want to hear the fable.
Okay.
Tell us
It's so good.
We flash back to Auric dancing around a large fire on the Isle of Ilvermere, most likely, with your father and mother playing their strange stringed harp-like instruments as Granny Brynja tells a tale. In the age of myths, when the world was young and the gods still walked among the mortals, there were 4 deities whose power shaped the destiny of Nox. Xovir, the trickster, Thirunamor, the Thornfather, Valthara, the Wizened One, and Rithmir, the Mother of Order. They had once been inseparable. Together they roamed the land, protecting the weak and bringing balance to the world. Yet as with all things, power corrupts, and even the gods were not immune to its temptations. Rithmira, the once righteous judge of the heavens, became consumed with her own moral superiority, dispensing harsh judgment upon mortals who did not walk her narrow path of law. Valthara, the ever-curious seeker of knowledge, grew obsessed with the unraveling of the mysteries of creation and sought power beyond life itself. Kesovir, ever trickster, foresaw the coming doom but could not stop it, blinded by his love for Valthara and his old friendships. And Runamor, in his pursuit of creating perfect beings, brought forth the Elderkin and Zonvir, only to be betrayed by his own creations. His sorrow turned into fury. It is said that Kisovir, knowing that his friends had become too dangerous, sought to imprison them rather than destroy them. With the aid of Rithmira, he locked the Runamor deep within the core of Nox, where his rage could burn but never escape. But when it came to Valthara, the plan went awry. Kisovir summoned Ereshal, a being that feeds on the essence of the gods' beings, hoping to trap Valthara long within the plane of the gods. But Valthara, she had ascended past what Kisovir had known. No longer a goddess of mystery, but something far more terrifying, something that no trick could contain. In the chaos that followed, Rithmira, who had loved Kisovir in secret, intervened to save him from Valthara's wrath. Her actions, however, only doomed them all. Great battle ensues between Valthara and Ereshal, a battle that continues to this day, unseen all around. It is said that one day, when either Valthara or Ereshal finally falls, the world of Nox will end, and all life will fade away. This day is known to the stories as Find Grimir, the end of all things. Yet, the legends tell a different story of Kasumi. They say he set this doom in motion, his trickery and deceit causing the downfall of the gods. His love for Valthara became his undoing, and his schemes brought forth the end of the world. But we know the truth. He was purely just a poor man trying to help his friends. And your mind instantly goes to that story as you come back to this moment. Obviously, the trickster refers to Kisovir. That's what you would imagine.
Yeah.
You're not sure who the wizard refers to. Could be Rithmira, could be Valthara. But the troubling thing, I think, is that phrase, the fight has ended. And you know that as the story goes, that brings about the end of Nox.
Maybe that was what made the magic leave Nox before. Maybe it's not like an end as in a destruction, but an end of how it was.
Right, but he's saying that the fighting has ended and we're still all here.
But for how long?
Maybe there's a new fight brewing.
I'm gonna ask, he said something has changed. I'm gonna ask, what has changed?
When she says that, I'll change the text to match.
To whom do I speak, small one?
I'm gonna say that
Should we put our group name up, or?
that's what I was wondering. Ember Flare Envoy? Or,
I would use your name.
yeah, I'll say Erixavir. And, Magnus. Disker.
I'll change the text to match.
I wonder how I'm just gonna feel about that name.
That's what I was curious about, so we'll see.
He responds, says that his name is Bramthir, which in ancient Noxian roughly translates to the voice of the peaks.
Maybe we should get him to lower down first.
Yeah. I don't know if there's like pleasantries in ancient Noxian of like being like, pleased to meet you. And then could you
Dude.
Yeah.
Do I know of any
Dude.
cultural pleasantries that would be like routinely exchanged during a greeting that I could convey
You have to dance
Eric?
like a
I think
beautiful
I
bird.
think the exchanging of names, like the fact that you offered up your names and he gave his in return, is the pleasantry.
Gotcha.
You, named for the trickster. I sense his mark upon you. Where does the trickster hide? Make a wisdom saving throw, Audric.
That's a 6.
Excellent.
Wait, you have guidance still on you.
You guidance.
Yeah.
I have been doing these wisdom saves without knowing what they are, and I've been saving. I'm kind of curious what happens if I
Have you been
fail
saving?
them.
Oh.
Maybe.
I haven't been stating either way. What's been?
That's true. So it was a 6 plus 3. That's a 9.
Then a guy pops out.
I've been living in your heart the whole time.
I take off my mask. I'm a horse.
Actually, I'm a broom.
That question is asked. What is Arxavir feeling? What is your emotional response to being asked that question?
I think something actually does click into place where they state, I sense the mark upon you, the mark of the trickster upon you. It's kind of like this is like total confirmation of everything, and even though I knew that was kind of brewing in the background, now it's like, oh, this is part of the destiny. Okay, cool. Like, yeah, all right, cool. Let's just go with this. But I think I'm going to respond as honestly as I know currently, which is that I know not where the trickster is currently.
So when I change the lettering, it'll specify like in a quote that's Eric's saying that.
You almost don't even notice, as in this moment you're kind of like standing probably a little tense, that you're clutching something in your gloved fist. And you open your palm and you see just a small, smooth riverstone pebble with maybe 4 strands of braided, long white hair that have been wrapped around it and tied in a neat little bow. You open your hands and look down at this, and a response comes.
Real quick, the hairs that are tied around the stone, do they match the hair of the being that I met back on Ilvermere?
Yes. And you recall he had very luscious, long, stark white hair for being a man who looks like he was in his like late 20s, early 30s.
His name was Petronir.
Or Petra, is what he told you to call him. And as the sentence finishes and you're still kind of like catching the translation, because Ancient Noxian is like, it's not a practiced language that a lot of people speak to each other in currently. So there's still like a delay of like, okay, conjugate and translate. I think this is that word. By the time you're processing what's been said, you see as the creature begins to rise again. And this time very carefully and slowly seems to turn and shift. And the 2 hands come gingerly down onto the shoreline as the stone itself shifts in a way that a human could never bend. As you see where what would be considered like our rib cage folds, and as the creature leans forward, you hear the stones rubbing on themselves as the city on his back seems to shift to his back, staying vertical as he leans forward, and basically brings the crown of his head, shoulders, to the shoreline. You get the translation in your brains. I sense the stones of Ilvermere. My path is made clear. Thank you, small ones. I shall tread carefully from this land. Those who live upon me should leave now.
What about that guy who was dangling? Is he able to like get out of
he
the
like
way?
slowly is like, as it's again very deliberate slow motion, he's like being lowered as this shift is happening towards the water, and when he gets to be about 10 feet above it, he just drops from the rope and plops into the sea and begins swimming towards your boat.
Oh, on the rope.
yeah, I'm on
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, what'd he say?
What? What's he doing? What's going on? Magnus?
Yeah.
Magnus?
I'll convey everything that I'll convey everything that he said.
Yeah, Talos is like, while this is all going down, he's like, see, I hope this is going well.
He's not killing us yet.
It's moving now.
He starts pulling out his gun, cannons, and just.
I changed the
As it
text.
starts moving, I'm just.
I changed the text into common, and I change it to say like,
You can
evacuate to the shore as quickly as possible.
Oh yeah, excellent. You hear, and you're like probably a good half mile offshore, But you see as torchlights begin to gather on the shoreline, it looks like a number of people did survive, and were atop his shoulders and probably have quite a story to tell as they're now evacuating their city and going onto the shores. And you see actually as the last few people are onto the shore and the billy goat Zoenveer is being pulled up with a life preserver that's been tossed overboard onto your ship. As Bronthir begins to lift back up, there's that shifting of stone yet again, and you see as the structures, the buildings, are actually left behind and now make a small peninsula out into the bay here.
Beachfront property.
As he stands and adjusts his gait and begins stepping into the water as it climbs ever further up his torso.
Before he goes under, I'm gonna shout a thank you, friend, and perhaps we'll cross paths again. I just had a stroke.
I'll change the text
Perhaps.
back into Ancient Noxian,
Cross paths again.
conveying her message as well.
Jen said he can't read.
Yeah,
It's just like,
I have a feeling that your voice was more communicative than the text that I was
We need
displaying.
both.
he just likes to show off.
Or perhaps he was deaf and that's why he couldn't hear the people screaming on his shoulders, so.
I mean, maybe they just weren't loud enough. They didn't have thaumaturgy to make their voice loud enough for a mountain.
Who knows?
He calls out, kind of just like turning over the shoulder as he's begun stepping away, and this time speaks once more. The future from here is no longer written. I'm glad there are still small folk that I may call friend. We will meet again. And with a few more steps, disappears beneath the waves. And that's where we're going to end this episode of the Sparkwind Chronicles.
No, more!
Can we have another episode, please?